Is Mark Zuckerberg a criminal? A question that may seem absurd but certainly warrants discussion. We live in an era where social media giants like Meta, formerly known as Facebook, and their CEOs wield considerable influence on our daily lives, shaping not just our social interactions but also our understanding of the world around us. And at the helm of this digital revolution is Mark Zuckerberg, a figure who has often found himself in the eye of the storm. Today, we're going to delve into 3 significant points of contention surrounding Zuckerberg's actions and decisions. First, we'll look at allegations of child exploitation. Recent Senate hearings have scrutinized social media platforms, including those under Zuckerberg's purview, for their potential role in enabling child exploitation and damaging young minds. The question is, has Meta done enough to protect the innocent? Secondly, we'll explore charges of election interference. The 2020 presidential election saw Zuckerberg and his platform, Facebook, embroiled in controversy for allegedly suppressing a news story. It's a move that many claim could have influenced the election outcome. Was this an overreach of power, a violation of free speech, or a necessary step in controlling misinformation? Finally, we'll examine Zuckerberg's involvement in criminal justice reform. Through the Chan Zuckerberg Initiative, he has shown an active interest in creating a fairer criminal justice system. But do his actions within the tech domain align with these noble intentions? Or is there a disconnect between his public stance and his business practices? So, is Zuckerberg a protector of the innocent or a violator of rights? Let's delve deeper into each of these points. As we navigate through these murky waters, remember, we're not here to pass judgment, but to question, to provoke thought, and to understand the complex dynamics of power in the digital age. First, let's explore the allegations of child exploitation on Facebook's platforms. The issue of child exploitation on social media is a growing concern globally, putting the spotlight on social media giants, including Facebook. In a recent Senate hearing, top social media executives, including Facebook's CEO, Mark Zuckerberg, were grilled about the mental health risks their platforms pose for young people and the accusations of failing to protect kids from exploitation and abuse. During the hearing, Zuckerberg, along with other tech CEOs, faced intense questioning from a United Senate committee. The focus was on the mental health impacts of social media on our children and the growing problem of online child exploitation. The air was thick with criticism and calls for accountability not just from the senators but also from the families of victims. In response to these concerns, Zuckerberg, like his counterparts, acknowledged shortcomings in their current systems and highlighted efforts to improve. But apologies are just words, and words alone cannot undo the damage or prevent further harm. The hearing also saw discussions around legislative efforts to combat these issues, such as the Kids Online Safety Act. However, the level of industry support for such measures varied, underlining the complexity of the problem. This critical issue underscores the urgent need for action to address the dark side of social media and protect the most vulnerable among us, our children, in the online world. So, we've seen the accusations and the apologies, but what about the actions? Moving on, let's talk about the allegations of election interference. A significant point of contention is Mark Zuckerberg's claim that the FBI pressured Facebook to censor accurate reporting about Joe Biden during the 2020 election. This is a serious accusation, suggesting undue government influence on social media platforms, a space that many consider to be the last bastion of free speech for the public. Zuckerberg alleges the censorship campaign was designed to suppress a New York Post story on corruption allegations against the Biden family, potentially influencing the election outcome. The Meta CEO has publicly apologized for complying with this pressure and has criticized the government for interfering in social media content. This controversy underscores the growing concerns about the extent to which government can influence tech platforms and, by extension, public discourse. Now let's remember that social media platforms like Facebook have a significant impact on the flow of information. They can shape public opinion, influence political discourse, and in some cases, even affect the outcomes of elections. This makes them a powerful tool for anyone looking to sway public sentiment, including government entities. This issue has reached the Supreme Court, sparking heated debates about content moderation policies and their implications on free speech. It's a complex issue, with arguments on both sides. On one hand, there's a need to prevent the spread of misinformation and harmful content. On the other, there's the fundamental right to free speech and the importance of maintaining an open dialogue in a democratic society. Zuckerberg's claim of government pressure is a serious one. Whether it's a case of governmental overreach or an attempt by Zuckerberg to shift blame is still up for debate. What is clear is that this controversy has sparked crucial conversations about the role of tech giants in our society and the balance between free speech and responsible content moderation. So, is this a case of government manipulation, or is Zuckerberg shifting blame? Finally, let's turn our attention to Zuckerberg's own involvement in criminal justice reform. In October of 2017, the Chan Zuckerberg Initiative, a philanthropic organization co-founded by Mark Zuckerberg and his wife Priscilla Chan, published an article underscoring the necessity for a paradigm shift in the U.S. criminal justice system. The piece was a response to the alarming disconnect between soaring incarceration rates and public safety, a disconnection that perhaps tells a tale of systemic failure within the system itself. The Chan Zuckerberg Initiative didn't just stop at pointing out the issues. In the same breath, they made a point to commend the innovative approaches of various organizations and leaders who are actively striving for criminal justice reform. These approaches range from data tracking to advocacy and even litigation, all aimed at altering the current landscape of the U.S. criminal justice system. Perhaps most interestingly, the article announced the initiative's support for 3 additional groups, each with a unique focus. One group concentrates on conservative principles, another on reform-minded prosecutors, and the third targets systemic injustices. This move not only demonstrates a commitment to a multifaceted approach to reform, but also shows an understanding that change must come from within the system and from all angles. It's clear that Zuckerberg, through the Chan Zuckerberg Initiative, is actively participating in the push for a more balanced and fair criminal justice system. However, it's important to remember that philanthropy and advocacy work do not absolve one of personal accountability, so we find ourselves at a crossroads. On one hand, we have allegations of child exploitation and election interference. On the other hand, we have active involvement in criminal justice reform. It's a complex picture that leaves us with a perplexing question. So, is Zuckerberg a criminal or a crusader for justice? Now that we've explored the evidence, let's summarize. First, we delved into the allegations of child exploitation. A United Senate committee grilled top social media executives, including Zuckerberg, on the mental health risks their platforms pose for young people. Accusations of failing to protect kids from exploitation and abuse were raised, with criticism and calls for accountability from senators and families of victims. The hearing highlighted the need for action to address the dark side of social media and protect children online. Next, we turned our attention to the allegations of election interference. Zuckerberg accused the FBI of pressuring Facebook to censor accurate reporting during the 2020 election, potentially influencing the election outcome. This controversy raises concerns about government influence on tech platforms and free speech. Zuckerberg's claim that the Biden administration pressured Meta to manipulate COVID-19 related information post-election only adds fuel to the fire. The issue of government influence on social media platforms has reached the Supreme Court, with ongoing debates on content moderation policies and free speech implications. Finally, we discussed Zuckerberg's involvement in criminal justice reform. Back in October 2017, an article commended various organizations and leaders for their innovative approaches to reforming the U.S. criminal justice system. It announced support for 3 additional groups focusing on conservative principles, reform-minded prosecutors, and systemic injustices. The author expressed pride in partnering with these leaders to work towards a fairer and more just system. It's clear that the issue is complex. Labeling Zuckerberg as a criminal based on the evidence is not straightforward. There are certainly concerns and allegations, but proving criminal intent or action is a different matter entirely. It's a tangled web of corporate responsibility, free speech, government influence, and societal impact. While the question remains, is Mark Zuckerberg a criminal? We've certainly uncovered some intriguing evidence. What do you think? Share your thoughts in the comments below.